let me quickly introduce Dr. Rathna Isaac. I actually caught up with her just a little while back to try and understand what she does. Now, Dr. Rathna Isaac is from Bengaluru, and she's been a clinical psychologist for more than 20 years. That's right, more than 20 years. That is outstanding. Congratulations on doing that for over 2 decades.
Thank you.
How has it been? Do you still wake up every day and you're glad for what you do?
Oh yes. Oh yes. I think it's a most rewarding profession. Um, and when they tell people if you're doing something you love, then it doesn't feel like work. Well, that's kind of what this feels like.
That's very sweet. It's so good to hear, especially for so many of us. A lot of my followers are very, very young and they're trying to figure out what to do with their life. And to see someone who's been doing one thing for over 2 decades is obviously very, very assuring and very inspiring. So, quick backgrounder to everyone what this chat is about. A person called Pavitra Jayaraman, she got in touch with me actually from the White Swan Foundation here in Bangalore. And the White Swan Foundation actually is a pretty remarkable organization. It's a non-profit, so it's an NGO, and they talk about mental health. In fact, they have mental health information in over 6 languages: English, Hindi, Kannada, Bangla, Malayalam, and Tamil. Whiteswanfoundation.org is the website. And of course, they are on Twitter and Instagram as well. And Dr. Rathna Isaac has tuned in from their Instagram. And this is also her first ever Instagram live. So do show her some love and appreciation. Really glad that you could do this. Okay. So Ratna, we're going to be talking about mental health, of course, today. And relationships and the burden this new reality or the new normal is bringing on that. But first up, I'd like to hear from you, because I know you give your patient listening to a lot of people and the problems they are dealing with and struggling with. But I'd really like to hear what you have to say about how you are feeling, how you are processing this. This is brand new for everybody. My parents are 60 years old. It's brand new for them. I am 37. It's brand new for me. And my daughter's 8 years old. It's brand new for her. It's a brand new thing for humanity. So how are you dealing with the COVID-19 lockdown, Ratna?
I think that the way you respond to this, it depends a lot on your personality. Each of us just deal with things differently. And like you said earlier, we're like in this really privileged bubble where, you're not really worried about food. You're not really worried about day-to-day, how will I survive? So in that respect, what this has been for me really is quality time with my family. And in that respect, it's definitely been good. I think not something any of us would have expected, that we will all be at home and relatively free together for such a long period of time. So that's been the good bit. I think that, it took me a little while to sort of get to a place where I said, okay, I don't know what's going to happen. And I think if you can accept that, fine, you don't really know what's going to happen, it becomes a little bit easier to sort of live with the uncertainty. And, I find that uncertainty is what is hardest for most people to deal with. Am I going back to work? Am I not going back to work? Is school going to start? Is it going to be online? Will my job still be there? Will the shops be open? Will they have what I need? And yes, I guess that sort of being willing to roll with the punches a little bit right now is a useful attribute.
Okay. Well, thanks for sharing that. There's a question here that Ronak Singhal 12 has written, and I urge all of you to use the question mark symbol on Instagram Live. You can share your question so it can be visible here, like this card is, and all of you can see it. Maybe that question represents what you're feeling. But feel free to ask Ratna absolutely anything. I don't know how many times you're going to find a willing, clinical psychologist with over 20 years of experience to just sit here and answer all your questions. So make the most of this situation. So Ronak, I'm actually going to answer that. Is there any helpline where we could call and talk it out or something if we ever wanted to? Yes, absolutely, Ronak. In fact, the organization that I just spoke about that is hosting Dr. Rathna Isaac, it's, of course, physically it's based in Bengaluru, in Bangalore, White Swan Foundation. But it's also available on the internet, on social media. So you can actually write to the White Swan Foundation Instagram, or you can talk to them on Twitter, or you can go to the website and figure out as well. You can do that. And Dr. Rathna Isaac, I checked with her if people want to get in touch with her for counseling or therapy, if they can do that. And she said, I would like to help, but my slots are pretty full. But if you want, Ratna, do you want to share your email ID in case people would like to email you?
Yeah, sure. It's Rathna Isaac. My full name, no capitals, RATHNAISAAC @gmail.com. So you can definitely send me an email if you would like some help. The government has also set up helplines for people who for people who are struggling with dealing with this crisis. So that's another option to consider, I
That's
think.
quite sensitive and sensible of the government to actually acknowledge this and to put forth resources for the public, right?
Yes, yes. I think they're collaborating with NIMHANS and a few other larger institutions. And I was speaking to a colleague in Tezpur, and he was saying that they are running these helplines there as well. So it does seem to be something that's available around the country.
That's incredible. That's incredible. Ratna, I want to jump in and I want to ask you, of course, maintaining complete anonymity of the people who take your counsel. Um, is there a pattern or a trend that you are seeing with respect to the people who seek and take therapy from you in terms of what they are affecting or what they are going through in this unprecedented episode that humanity is witnessing right now?
Yeah, I think it's too soon to speak about patterns and trends, and I tend to be a little wary to sort of say this is what is happening.
Understood.
In my experience, I'm finding that there are it's like two trends. There are those clients who basically, when you have a mental health issue, you've developed various resources and various ways of sort of dealing with it. If I have a bad day, what do I do? If I'm feeling particularly anxious, what do I do? And what this lockdown has done is that it's reduced those resources considerably. So if I'm irritated at home, I can't really go and spend a night out with my friends.
Right.
I'm stuck at home, and that becomes difficult. Individuals who are already anxious, of course, this is a situation which is sort of it's tailor-made to generate anxiety, because you don't really know what's going on and you can't see the danger, but there clearly is danger. And so, how do I really respond to that? I think that's being difficult. A sense of isolation and a sense of being cut off is something that a lot of individuals, especially those who are depressed, are dealing with. But I must say, on the other hand, I'm also seeing that those with mental health issues, for some of them, this is a good time.
Why do you say that?
You know, all the pressures from the outside world to be functional and to go out and to perform, all of those are slightly less now. I'm not the only one who's sitting at home. No, everyone is sitting at home. So that feels easier. I've had some clients say that, you know, thank God I already know how to deal with anxiety. Now I'm advising my friends. uh, a couple of clients with OCD saying that, you know, now they all know what it's like in my world. I used to be the only one with a tissue and a hand sanitizer. Now
Or
everyone
germaphobes
has
are
a
having an
tissue
absolute field day. Yeah.
and a hand sanitizer. So I guess it's working in different ways. And I must say that I have seen that since the beginning, where there was quite a bit of a sense of panic and like, I don't know how I'll deal with this. Many people have found ways of dealing with it.
Right.
Increasing your online life because there's not that much of an offline life. Learning a new skill, like I've taken up yoga. I finally have the time to get into it. I'm doing meditation, or I've reached out to more people. So I think human beings are incredibly adaptive, and
They are.
I can see some of that adaptation happening now. So that's good.
Interesting. Those are great trends to observe. We're also going to keep taking questions here, Ratna. I hope that's okay with you.
Yeah, yeah.
Kanik Singh is sharing, "Hi Ankit, I want some help." Firstly, Kanik, hats off to you. You're a guy, you're asking help on a public platform. That's an incredible sign of bravery and courage and self awareness. Thank you so much for doing that. Recently, I have faced a breakup. I was serious, but she wasn't. I try to remain positive by doing meditation, but I get her flashbacks like the time we spent. Any suggestions to deal with it? Ratna, a breakup is heart wrenching any time of life or day or year. And for that to happen, especially at a time when you have all the time to get in your head and maybe keep ruminating over memories or thoughts can be especially difficult. What would you recommend to Kanik Singh and maybe anyone else who's dealing with a situation like this?
Okay. One, yes, I think, you know, this reiterates my earlier point that the resources that he might have used to deal with this,
Right.
many of those will be less available now. Yes, and a breakup, well, one, I think it's going to be painful no matter what you try to do. There's nothing as horribly stressful and unhappy, I think, as a relationship breaking. But in terms of what you want to do to deal with it, it's not very different from what you would have to do either way, which is in some way try to make sense of what happened and what it is that you went through, and in some way try to engage with what life afterwards might be. Whenever we have a loss, first we have to mourn the loss, and then we have to remember that we are bigger than that loss and reconnect with other things that make our life meaningful. So tougher during a lockdown, but I suppose it's something that can be done.
Absolutely. No, thank you for sharing that. Kanik, this is such incredible advice. Think of the tomorrow after the painful today. And I think if you think of that, and of course, there are so many theories and books like Rhonda Byrne's The Secret about manifesting what you want in your life, or thinking about it, or sending those frequencies to the universe, and the universe amplifying and giving you that. So maybe that. And in it's Buddha Purnima today, and in Buddhism, Siddharth Gautam Buddha, of course, says, no matter how dire the circumstance, even this shall pass, because fundamentally everything is temporary. So yes, it'll hurt, but even this shall pass. We're getting a lot of questions here, Ratna. I'm sure you're used to it. But how are you finding this first Instagram live? Are you doing okay? Are you comfortable?
Yeah, so far it's fine. I'm glad that you're here to sort of feel the questions and tell me what to focus on. But in a way, I suppose this is what I'm thinking about and talking about most of the time. So
I understand. Okay, we have a question from a user named Tall, Dark, and Witty. That's a cool Instagram handle. Well, I have lost my job few months ago. Before this corona situation happened, I thought I will find another one in some time, and now all this is going on. The uncertainty of everything is taking a huge toll on my mental health, as I already am dealing with OCD and depression. How to deal with all this, because nothing will be as normal soon.
okay.
Firstly, I'm sorry
You
to
know,
hear, Tall, Dark, and Witty, that you've lost your job. That must be incredibly difficult. Ratna?
yeah. And I do see again as the lockdown wears on that more and more businesses are winding down, more and more companies are downsizing, and people are losing jobs. A 2 week break is something everyone can sustain themselves through, but a longer break is that much harder. So I'd say to Tall, Dark, and Witty that, in circumstances where you know that there's so much which is not within your control, and so much that is dependent on what happens to the economy and what happens to your industry, it's sort of important to focus on the stuff you can control. So if there's some skill building that you can do that might enhance your CV, or if there are people that you can reach out to who might be able to help you. There will be a few things that you can do for yourself at this time, and so I guess that right now, in terms of doing, that is it. And otherwise, to be aware, I guess that this is a situation which is being faced by many people. You're not really alone in it. And we hope that it's not something that will last forever. It will not last forever, but we hope that it is something that's on its way to being resolved as well.
Fantastic inputs. Focus on reskilling or upskilling yourself, especially now that we have the time and we are at home. See if you can sign up for online courses, Unacademy, Upgrad, Coursera, so many, lynda.com, so many incredible platforms, Skillshare, where you can literally learn a new skill, or maybe just, revise that, or even something that most of us are finally doing, which is making time for our multiple hobbies, that can also have such a nice positive effect on your mental state, considering, Tall, Dark, and Witty, you've stated that you're already dealing with OCD and depression. This can be an incredibly difficult time for someone like that. I have a question, Ratna, about family members of people who deal with mental health issues. In fact, Nandini Y has asked a question. I have facing anxiety during lockdown, what are the best ways to help them now that we can't physically be there for them? So there are two parts to this question, really, Ratna. First part is if you are a caregiver and you are in a house where a family member or a friend or roommate is facing mental health issues for them, and if you're like Nandini, you've got friends or family members, but they are geographically distant from you and you can't travel because the government's put a curfew everywhere.
For people who are staying with the ones who they are caring with, I think partly it is to be sensitive to the fact that they might be responding more strongly than you are. You know, they might have the same questions which they're asking over and over again, or they might have the same anxieties that they're expressing over and over again. They might find it harder to see anything positive in the situation. They might be gathering all the negative information they can find from everywhere, and that could be playing on their minds. So I think one is to understand that, you know, this will be harder for them than usual. And so perhaps to check in on them a little bit more often in terms of how they are doing, to see whether you can work together to create another focus, do a project together, you know, do something else. Let's start a garden in the terrace. Is a better way for both of you to be spending your time. For people who are far away, I think we are, you know, you can't do physical things, but you can do stuff like you can call, you can let them know that you care, you can let them know that you want to be available to them. Sometimes at a practical level, I know people who've like maybe done zoned food on a particular day to a friend who was like not really up to cooking for themselves that day. You can help them with resources. Basically letting them know that you're there for them. And it makes a huge difference. I can say this as a therapist who speaks to people who, you know, are feeling alone and are feeling unhappy, how much of an impact it has when a friend reaches out to you. So it's not a small thing, you know, that, oh, I can only text, I can't go. Well, your text means a lot. I think that's what I'd suggest.
Use the tools at disposal, adapt. Humanity and Homo sapiens are great at adaptation. That's how we've made it so far over tens of thousands of years. The next question, Ratna, as you can see, is from Isha Chitnis. How does one deal with relationship disputes when you don't know if the problem is the stress due to the pandemic or
whether it's the basic relationship
right
with self?
Right.
One thing in general which we suggest to anyone in a relationship is that you don't make a major relationship decision during a time of stress. You might notice things, but you don't make the decisions because, you know, her question is very apt that we don't know whether things will change when life goes back to normal. And I was also thinking we're not sure what normal it's going to go back to.
Correct.
So yeah, one thing I would suggest is don't make these big relationship decisions. The second thing is, you know, you have time to talk now. very often in the course of our day-to-day life, we don't address disputes or we don't address disagreements or feelings because there's really no time. And so this is a time where you can actually sit down together and sort of try to understand what's happening with you and what's happening with me and why am I unhappy and why are you unhappy. So couples who are able to sort of keep that conversation or communication going, they can actually make this fairly useful time. Sometimes the conflict is at a level where you really can't talk very easily with each other, and any interaction that you have is only going to make you feel worse. In a situation like that, I would actually suggest that you sort of call a halt or take a break from the issues that you're dealing with and say that we'll come back to it at a time where both of us have more resources. And I have seen clients choosing to do both. Some clients who've said that, okay, now we have time, let's sit, let's see if we can actually figure this out. And then clients who've said that right now, with all of us locked up inside the house, I don't want to open any Pandora's boxes. So let's just put it aside. So I think that largely depends on how confident you feel that a conversation will work, that I can get my point across to the other person.
That's a great suggestion and response. Apurva Ella is asking, and this is actually related to the caregiver conversation we were having, Ratna. If you're a caregiver in a house where somebody is dealing with mental health issues, how can one support their loved ones during lockdown? Apurva is asking, when you are distressed yourself.
Okay.
Where do the caregivers go to?
For their help. Okay. Well, I think that this is a caregiver problem both inside and outside lockdown. Though, of course, if your level of anxiety about what's going to happen tomorrow and how am I going to get this fixed or what am I going to do about that is high, you have a little bit less patience, you have a little bit less emotional energy for the other person in the house who might have the actual illness. It's very important that caregivers are able to look after themselves, and that caregivers are willing to dedicate some time and some resources to also looking after themselves. Often, you feel guilty about that. You feel like actually things are not so bad with me. Why should I say that I want to lie down for half an hour when instead I can actually do this? But it's not something that's sustainable in the long run. So I would say, one, please do what you need to do to help yourself, which means if you need to reach out for support, please do. Respite is another important concept here. Like, when we talk about respite for caregivers, it is that you can't be doing this 24/7, 365 days a year. And so you do get breaks. Now, I can't go on a 1 week holiday to Goa right now, but I can maybe put my relative on a Zoom call with someone else and have them engaged with that while I lie down for half an hour. I can reach out to my network and ask them to step in a little bit more actively, both to take care of the ill person so that I get my break and to take care of me sometimes if that's what I need. So I think the one thing that I would say to caregivers is sort of don't feel guilty about needing help. and remember that your health and well-being is something that is very important to the person you are caring for. If you're not healthy, you can't care for anyone, and so then caregiving becomes a moot point.
Absolutely. I think even in airlines, right? I think I don't know when we are going to be able to sit on a flight again, but the memory is so well etched in our minds when the air hostess announces that, in case of emergency, first put the oxygen mask on your face, ensure you are safe and breathing oxygen, only then look after someone else.
Yeah.
So self-care first, self-preservation first. Right. Okay, let's take this question from Explorer I. I've been working on something since last 2 years, but I think I'm just not there yet. How do I deal with me being, I think what he's written is, how do I deal with me being not doing so great in that? I think this is a work-related question because, like I told you, a lot of my audience is young. They're either just finishing college or first-time jobbers. So, what would you say to someone who's probably thinking, oh my God, I've just spent, let's say, 4 years getting graduated in a certain degree. And oh my God, am I going to be relevant in this new job market? Are my skills going to be useful, needed? Am I going to find a job with the economy down in the dumps? That can induce an incalculable amount of stress, right, Ratna? What would you say to the youth for that?
Um, I would say that some of these are questions for which, with the best will in the world, we don't actually have answers. And that is, I think, again, like I was saying, if you want to if you want a system where somebody can give you a clear answer, then it's not there. And so that's something to keep in mind. Will your skills be relevant? What will the job market be like? I mean, that's a very sort of industry or job specific question, but I guess the best that you can do for yourself is to get more knowledge, speak to people who are working in your industry, ask them what they predict the situation might be like, and see whether you're on track with them. We can get as much knowledge as we can, and then we can act on that. I think your caller was also sort of saying, if I've been working on something for a long time, but it's not quite where I want it to be,
Right.
what do I do about that?
Correct. That was the question. Yeah.
So there you could try to do a bit of like a reverse problem solving kind of exercise to see if you can understand what your barriers have been. If you're not quite where you wanted to be, what is it that's come in the way of you getting there? Is it that opportunities haven't turned up, or is it that some skill needs to sort of change, or some attitude needs to change in you? Is it a problem that by approaching it differently, maybe you can solve it? Is there something that you can work around? So basically, I think, you need to sort of try and understand what is blocking you. And then it becomes a little bit clearer, okay, I have to remove that block. How do I do that?
Nice. Sure. Okay. Ash Pethe, you can't pour from an empty bucket. Self-care is important with respect to what we were speaking earlier. Yes, absolutely. Well said. I hope that answered the previous question. A couple of people have also written to me before this, and I'm going to summarize that question for you. Is there anything good that you think? Actually, there is a question right here. Let me just put that up so you can also see. Lalit Khopade is asking what
What
positives we can
positives?
take from this in bracket corona situation. Firstly, Lalit, thank you for actually even considering that a period of trials and tribulations can lead to some positivity or something like that. It takes an open mind to do that. Ratna, what do you think? Is there a silver lining to this dark cloud?
Yeah, actually, I would say most certainly. Because one thing that I see this situation doing is everyone is figuring out what's really important to them. We are all prioritizing. We're all understanding that those things which I thought I couldn't live without, actually, I'm okay. I haven't bought any new clothes for 2 months. Nothing has happened.
Right.
I haven't gone out for lunch 7 times. Things are carrying on. So I think it really helps you to sort of understand what is important to you. If your house is burning, what are you going to take out? We are in that kind of a situation. Your house is burning. What are you holding on to? And that can kind of tell you, that can kind of help you, I think, streamline and focus the rest of your life. Also, at a time where our usual outlets are not available, what they do is they force us to explore options we would not have explored otherwise. Okay, so, whether it's sort of getting more in tune with nature and following, we can see so many more birds and
Yes.
things than we've seen in a long time. And I think we've all seen those videos of animals coming into
Urban
all the
spaces.
cities. Yeah. So, maybe you find something like that. I see people cooking, baking, um, so maybe it will help you to find a resource that is slightly more dependent just on yourself, and therefore in the long run perhaps more reliable as well for you. Yeah, so I think that those are definitely two things which I can straight away take out and say that these are potential positives from you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's a question here that Man Pre87 has written. How to support partner who looks stressed, becomes overly snappy, and is dumping all the frustration on his partner.
Okay.
I think one too many people must be going through this, and it's really unfortunate.
Well, first of all, I think that she's asking the right question in that she's asking, how do I support this partner?
That's
And not
incredible.
how do
Yeah.
I deal with this partner? And that attitude difference itself is huge, because somewhere when you say that, you're recognizing that, okay, if he's stressed and snappy and dumping, it's because he is frustrated, or maybe he is going through something. So I think that itself is big. Um, Definitely, it's something that calls for a conversation. You need to draw it to the person's attention that they have become more snappy. Often, when we are irritable because we're stressed or frustrated, we don't really notice that we're irritable. I'm dealing, right? Like, I'm not irritated. Why are you saying I'm irritated? We're not really aware that that's how we're coming across. And so sometimes just drawing the person's attention to it might be enough, because it may not be how they wish to be. Sometimes you may need to do more than draw their attention to it, but also say that, look, clearly you're going through something that's, it's getting to you. So can we take some time to figure out what's going on and what's getting to you, and how can I help you with this? It's also, while you are being there and being supportive and trying to help your partner out, it is also important to draw a few boundaries and say that, I'd love to help you, but I need you to ask me nicely. And if you're going to keep on just snapping at me and hoping that I figure out that underneath really you're unhappy, after some time it is going to bother me, and it will be difficult. So I guess a bit of both.
That's great. Thank you so much for answering that.
Okay.
Sunny Deep, the question you've actually asked, Sunny, we've responded to that. It was Explorer I's question as well. So this Instagram live is going to be on for 24 hours. You can go back and watch all of it. Dr. Rathna Isaac's suggestions and advice is valuable to be watched all over again, as many times as you can in 24 hours. So make the most of it. Sveshon is writing, lockdown could go one of two ways. It could suddenly mean we spend much more time together or much less. Yes, Sveshon, that is well said. On Twitter, some of the jokes are, either we'll come out of this after 9 months, we're going to see a ton of corona babies. That's what they're joking. Or there's going to be a ton of corona divorces or separations. In fact, early data from Wuhan, which was the epicenter in Hubei province in China, is the hundreds of divorces that, racked up immediately. As soon as people came out, they're like, oh my God, who was I stuck with? I don't want to be with this person anymore. My eyes have opened. Okay. I'm going to take this question here, which is for a lot of people, they are seeing aspects of their personality, Ratna, that they have probably never come face to face with before. Whether it is rage, anger, frustration, helplessness, despair, anxiety, stress, depression, people who are seemingly exuberant on the outside, they're feeling completely hollow and hapless inside. And they're wondering, what is going on with me? Because we were never spending as much time with ourselves. We were never really paying attention to our thoughts and our words and our actions. But now there's no escaping it. So, do you think this is a good time now for people, for everyone, to consider therapy within their means, within whatever's possible, and at least to start actively, healthily discussing mental health issues, the need for therapy, and things like that? How do you see this as a clinical psychologist with over 20 years of experience?
I think any opportunity to get to know ourselves better ultimately is a growth opportunity. And any opportunity to become more friendly with yourself and more comfortable with those parts that you don't usually think about. The depression, the hollowness, all of those things. It's also in many ways a growth opportunity, and people who are more aware of themselves and happier with the things that they see inside, or at least have come to terms with them, tend to be more comfortable and generally happier in life. So yes, it's definitely an opportunity for self-exploration. If you wish to do that self-exploration through therapy, then again, it's a good time. Especially because I think, we have the time, like you said. That has to be sort of balanced with the means as well, because I think that people are struggling with that. But I have seen that, none of the therapists who I've spoken to are experiencing like a drop in new referrals or a drop in new clients who are seeking therapy. So I think actually it is happening that people are using this opportunity to sort themselves out, to understand themselves better, to get more comfortable with bits that they haven't been comfortable with before, to deal with relationship issues, for a whole range of things like that. And of course, as a therapist, I'm always for
More
trying.
therapy, for trying out therapy, absolutely.
But trying out therapy, see, I think I want to emphasize for trying out working on yourself. Therapy is one way of doing that. And it's a way that works very well for many people. But if it's not the way that works for you, that's fine, find another way, but
Find some way.
chance to look, yeah.
Right. Use the chance to look. That's beautiful. I've always wondered this, Ratna, and I must ask you this now that I have you here. Where do therapists go for therapy, or what do therapists do for therapy? Because
Yes, that's actually quite a serious question and thing in the mental health profession, because we do recognize that therapists need therapy as well. So many therapists have their own therapists. So that's something that you will definitely be doing. And we also have supervision, which is like where you can talk to either colleagues at the same level or maybe a slightly senior colleague about your therapy. And so supervision is slightly more focused just on the therapy itself, whereas personal therapy is where you can go to deal with your stuff. And I think I would in general recommend to all therapists to try it.
fantastic. What have you used this time personally? What have you used this time and this lockdown to tap into? Any new hobby, anything new that you've been wanting to do, but you finally found the time to do?
Well, I must say it's not like I've had huge amounts of time,
Oh,
because
yeah.
my work is not really stopping.
Okay.
As I said, because it's so, because of therapy, it's easy to switch to online as compared to maybe other jobs. So the
Right.
transition is not that big. So yes, work is definitely continuing. But I've spent the time, I think I've taken out every old album that we have, and my husband and me sat and looked through all our photographs from our wedding, birth of our children, and all the parties. And it's been nice to sort of sit and look and say, okay, so this has been our life, these are all the things that we've done. I was inspired to start a family WhatsApp group. I'm not sure my family are very happy about it. No, we all should keep in touch. So I think that it's been nice to just be able to sit and reflect and remember and somehow put together the story of your life.
So beautifully put. Last question, and then I'll let you go. You've been patiently answering all the questions. Can't thank you enough for that right now. Is about something that we were speaking on the call, right? You said how You're not really on any social media platform, not Facebook, not Twitter. And I asked you, are you on social media? And you said, yes, I'm on WhatsApp. And
And you
now I get it.
educated me.
No, now I get it. Your family WhatsApp group is all these platforms built into one. Yes, I
Pretty
get
much,
it.
yes.
It's Facebook, it's Twitter, it's Instagram, it's Snapchat, all of it. But so much of stress and anxiety for my generation, for the younger generation, is literally from the constant 24/7 feed of so much that's coming in, whether it's sensationalized or fake news, or whether it is very, very graphic visuals. There's no filtering anymore. My heart goes out to what happened today in Vishakhapatnam this morning, the gas leak that happened. And within seconds, minutes, there were very, very graphic videos of people who had lost their lives, of people who were unconscious and just, like fallen off the wayside on the road. There's that. And then there's the social media. There's Instagram. Oh my God, look at this person's life. Oh my God, they're doing 21-day fitness challenge. Oh my God, they can cook. Oh my God, their rotis are so round. Oh my God, they're so talented. Oh my God, look at their hobbies. And every time you
Yeah.
look at something like that, you're just like, what am I? A worthless piece of turd. Like, oh my God, what am I doing in my life? What do you have to say to everyone? I think this was probably the most loaded question when it
Good.
comes to social media induced anxiety. What do you have to say to everyone with respect to that?
So many things. I'm going to need a lot more than your last 10 minutes to respond to that. See, firstly, I think social media is a tool. And there has to be a mind that is making some choices about how to use that tool. If you treat yourself as the tool and the media as something which will just come and hit you and there's nothing I can do about it, then that is a problem. So I think for everyone to sort of be conscious about what role is this playing in my life? What do I want to be on Facebook for? What am I looking for out of Instagram? And that might help you to filter what you pay attention to and what you don't pay attention to. So I think largely I would suggest a little bit of mindfulness about what are you doing on that platform. Secondly, this upward comparison that we are constantly doing, which you're saying is, I think, very, very much, I remember this forward that said something like, everyone is like clever on LinkedIn and smart on Twitter and single on Tinder. And we're all projecting images of how we want the world to see us. And the thing is, we keep on thinking that the other person's image is how they really are, without realizing that they're also sitting in their home and projecting this image of how they want the world to see them. And yes, definitely it can become an endless race, because there will always be somebody who makes more perfect chapatis than you, and there will always be somebody, you did a 21-day challenge, they did it plus plus, you know. And so somewhere to decide, who do you want to compare yourself with? And of course, the wise suggestion is compare yourself to who you were yesterday,
Wow.
and not to who someone else is hoping they might be 3 years from now, give or take. That keeps you a lot more grounded, and that keeps you a lot more focused, and it actually can help you move. If you think, where was I, where am I, and where I want to be. Yeah.
That's incredible. Such lovely words of wisdom and advice. Dr. Rathna Isaac, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you. My
Thank
counter
you.
here on Instagram is saying we literally have 1 minute remaining before this auto shuts down because I think there's a
Okay.
1 hour limit on Instagram for lives. But really, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for patiently responding to all my questions, all the listeners' questions.
You're
It's been
welcome.
an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
I hope it was useful to the listeners.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I'm very sure it was. And for everyone else, don't forget to see more of White Swan Foundation, who's hosting Dr. Ratna for this Instagram Live. White Swan Foundation is on Twitter as well. It's whiteswanfoundation.org on web and on Instagram as well. So go check it out. They are available in 6 languages. They have a lot of literature and information about mental health issues. Thank you for being such a lovely audience. Thank you for asking your questions. Dr. Ratna, good evening. Have a good time.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye-bye. Good night.